Today, we're jumping right into some of the biggest what-ifs in all of MMA. We're talking about three absolute monsters who could completely shake up their divisions: Islam Makhachev, Khamzat Chimaev, and Magomed Ankalaev. The big question on everyone's mind is, just how far can these guys actually go? But before we even get to the dream matchups, we gotta remember what really makes the wheels turn in modern MMA. The former champ, Dominic Cruz, absolutely nailed it when he said it all comes down to the money fight. And honestly, that's the core of every single what-if we're about to break down. So first up on the list, the king of the lightweights, Islam Makhachev. He's looking at a huge gamble, right? Moving up to welterweight to face an absolute killer on the feet, Jack Della Maddalena. And when you ask the experts how we should do it, well, nobody can seem to agree. Yeah, it really boils down to that classic striker versus grappler debate. One camp is screaming, stick to what you know, take him down. But the other side is waving a huge red flag, saying if you try to stand and bang with this guy, you're playing his game, and that's a recipe for disaster. And you've got Belal Muhammad, a top welterweight who literally just fought Maddalena, giving Islam some pretty direct advice. He's basically saying, look, I saw weaknesses on the ground. Exploit them. Don't even think about getting into a striking match. For Belal, it's a no-brainer. But then you've got a UFC Hall of Famer, Michael Bisping, who's not so sure. He thinks the odds are just plain disrespectful to Maddalena. Bisping is warning everyone that Maddalena's boxing is elite, and that's the kind of thing that can lead to a massive upset if Islam decides to get into a firefight. So with all this pressure, you'd think the vibe in Makhachev's camp would be super tense, right? All serious, all business, but actually, it's the complete opposite. His coach is getting, well, pretty creative to keep things light. Okay, check this out. They had this brutal 20-bike workout on the schedule. Instead of just barking orders, the coach turns it into a game of chance. He writes 10 on one piece of paper, 20 on another, shuffles them up, and makes Islam pick. The entire team's fate for the day is literally in his hands. Talk about a crazy way to build team spirit. All right, let's switch gears and talk about maybe the most polarizing guy in the entire sport, Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, with Borz, there is zero middle ground. You either think he's the next unstoppable force, or you think he's all hype. Just listen to the bantamweight champ Sean O'Malley. He is all in on the Chimaev hype train. He calls him an unstoppable superstar, a finisher. O'Malley basically sees him as untouchable. But then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have his rival, Paulo Costa. He looks at Chimaev's last fight, that super dominant grappling performance, and he doesn't see dominance. He says Chimaev was just scared of Dricus du Plessis' knockout power, so he just decided to lie on him. For Costa, it was about fear, not skill. And then his buddy Darren Till throws a real curveball into the mix. He thinks Khamzat could move up a weight class and beat the light heavyweight champ, Ankalaev. But, and get this, he thinks Khamzat would have a harder time with the much smaller Islam Makhachev. How wild is that? So when you lay it all out, you can really see the split. You've got Darren Till saying Chimaev's pure power and aggression can just steamroll the size difference against Ankalaev's. But then another champ, Vadim Nemkov, is like, no way. He thinks Ankalaev's size, combined with his technical skill, is a mountain Khamzat just can't climb. Okay, so we've heard from other fighters, champs, rivals, pretty much everyone. But what about the man himself? What does the light heavyweight king, Magomed Ankalaev, have to say about his name being thrown around? With all this chatter about a potential super fight against Chimaev, Ankalaev finally decided to speak up, and he didn't need a whole lot of words to make his point. He just had this quiet champion's confidence. He basically said, I'm the champ in this division. If someone wants to come up and try to take my belt, welcome. Man, that's such a powerful and simple way to cut through all the noise. And that's really where this whole thing leaves us, with the biggest question of all. Can Khamzat Chimaev's insane hype train keep rolling all the way to a title in a second division? Or is a technical master like Ankalaev the guy who finally stops him in his tracks? Is it the super fight we've all been waiting for, or is it just a step too far? That's the debate, and honestly, we won't know the answer until that cage door locks.